Welcome to ePathshala PG courses on computer science. We will see about the course web technology, and in this course today we will see about the module which speaks about the Java UDP socket programming. The objective of this module is to understand about how to make UDP communication between client and the server, and we will see about how do we do UDP socket programming. We will also discuss about multicast communication with UDP sockets. So, as we have already seen, this UDP communication is an unreliable or it is not connection based. This UDP would deliver independent packages whose arrival or the order of arrival is not guaranteed. So, the packets that are sent by this UDP protocol are called as datagrams. This datagram is actually an independent or it is also called as a self-contained message that is sent over the network whose arrival or the order of arrival is not guaranteed. So, the classes which we use for UDP connection in Java are the datagram packet class, datagram socket class, and there is another class called multicast socket. So, these are the three important classes which we will be using it for making UDP communication. So, let us now see about a class called datagram socket. So, this datagram socket class defines four public constructors, one which does not take any argument. So, this creates a datagram socket that is bound to any unused port on the local computer, and we have another constructor called datagram socket which takes a port number. So, this would create a datagram socket bound to the port specified by the variable or the argument port number. And the third constructor would create or construct a datagram socket that is bound to the specified port and the INET address. So, here you can see that the datagram socket takes a port number and an INET address object. The fourth one is a datagram constructor that creates a datagram object, datagram socket object using the socket address object. So, this socket address is actually an abstract class that is implemented by the concrete class called INET socket address. So, the socket address actually binds the INET address with the port number. So, in order to create this UDP socket, the client uses a constructor that does not require a port number. This constructor just binds the datagram socket to any available local port, and it does not matter what port the client is connected to, because we normally give the port number in the datagram packet. So, the addressing information are available in the other class called datagram packet. So, this datagram socket is for creating the socket object. So, both the client and the server would make use of this datagram socket to create a socket in the client side as well as in the server side, and datagram packet is a class using which we will send information between the client and the server. So, both client and the server are using both the classes, the datagram socket class and the datagram packet class. So, the server would actually get the port number from the datagram packet, and it would send its response to that port number. So, the client actually, once it identifies the port number, it would actually make a communication to the server again in the same port number. So, the datagram packet is the one which actually contains this addressing information, not in the socket class, datagram socket class. So, now this datagram socket defines many methods, but the one which we will be using now are the send and the receive method. So, a datagram packet is a one which is like a box within which you put information and you want to send and receive information through the sockets. So, now use a method called send method to send a datagram packet to the other end, and we will use a method called receive method to get a datagram packet. So, we will construct a datagram packet in order to receive the information from the datagram packet. So, the send method sends packet to the port specified by the packet, and the receive method waits for a packet to be received from the port specified by packet, and it returns the result. Now, let us see about the constructors of the datagram packet. So, there are different constructors here you can see. So, the first one, the datagram packet actually creates a datagram packet with a byte array. So, you have a byte array within which you want to put your information, and from the position from where you have to send or receive your data, the offset has to be can be given, and the length is the number of bytes you want to read from or to receive in a datagram packet. The second constructor says that you put a byte array within this datagram packet and you also specify the number of bytes. So, the first two constructors you can see that we are actually constructing the datagram packets to receive information. So, these are all called as datagram packets that are going to be received. So, at the receiving end we use these constructors to construct a datagram packet and to receive information. Whereas, the next four you can see here, the datagram packet that constructs with the byte array, we can give the offset and the length in the buffer, the byte array, and we can also specify the address and the port number. So, when you give the address and the port number, this is for sending information. So, these are all, this datagram packet constructor is actually used for sending a datagram packet to the specified INET address and the port number. And the next one is a datagram packet that is sent to the socket address. So, we can use this abstract class socket address and we can give the addressing information. So, we construct this datagram packet to send packets to the other end. And the next one is not an offset, you do not have an offset, you have a byte array length and then we have an INET address and a port number. The next constructor takes a byte array length and the socket address. So, these are the four constructors, the last which has been listed here, the last four constructors are used for sending datagrams and the first two ones are used for receiving datagrams. And some of the methods of the datagram packet have been given here, and we will also be seeing that how we use these methods with in the program. So, we can set an address with a datagram packet. So, we can set an address using the method called set address. You can get address of it from the datagram packet using the method called get address. So, once a datagram packet is received, you can get the address from it using the get address method. And we can also set socket address, similarly you can get socket address, and we can set port and get port with the datagram packets. And get data is to receive, to get the data from the datagram packet. So, once a datagram has been received, you can use a method called get data that would return a byte array, then you have to convert that byte array to a string and you can print it. And you can also get the offset using the method called get offset. You can get the length of the datagram packet, and set data is to set data to the datagram packet, and you can use offset and length, or without offset and length you can use the byte array to set the data, and similarly to the datagram packet you can set the length. So, these are the methods that are available in the datagram packet class. Now, this is a simple code which would explain that how this UDP communication is happening. So, as I told you, this is a server side, the server program we are coding it. So, we have a datagram socket created in the server and we try to make this datagram socket available in the port 6000, and we try to construct two datagram packets DP1 and DP2. One would be for, we will be using it for sending datagrams, the other one we will be using it for receiving datagrams. Now, you try to get a buffered reader object, this is to read something from the keyboard, and B is a byte array. Now, we can see here we construct a datagram packet of this byte array. So, we do not have actually information within this datagram packet, it is an empty packet which would be created with this empty byte array and of 1024 bytes, because we have given the length of this byte array as 1024. So, once you construct this empty datagram packet, we use a method called receive. So, ds is the datagram socket object. So, ds dot receive of dp1. So, once you receive this datagram packet, the information in the datagram packet, you can use a method called get data to open the datagram packet and get the information from it. So, that would actually return a byte array. Okay. So, now we convert this byte array to a string. So, you make use of the constructor of the string class to convert this byte array to a string object, and you try to print it on the screen or the console. So, this is a chat. So, what we are trying to do is we make this connection between the client and the server until server or the client gives an exit string. So, if S equals exit, you are going to break it, or else you try to read something. The server side also, the previous slide we have seen, the server is receiving information from the client, and as a next step we try to read some information from the keyboard. So, we use the buffered reader object BR, we read a line from the keyboard and then we need to convert it to bytes in order to put it in the datagram packet. So, what you do is you take the string object dot get bytes. Get bytes would convert a string to a byte array. So, we already have created a byte array called B. So, use get bytes to convert the string to a byte array. Now, construct a datagram packet, use the constructor of the datagram packet. Here you can see that this is to send your datagram packet to the other end. So, you need to give the INET address or to the address to which you want to communicate. So, we put the byte array B and we say what is the length of the string which we are sending it. So, either B dot length or you can use it as S dot length, and then we get the address from where you have already got your datagram packet. So, DP1 was the first packet we have received in the server side. So, we try to use the method called get address in order to receive the address from the datagram packet, and we use a method called get port to receive the port number which has been binded with the datagram packet 1, and we use the same address and the port number to communicate to the other side. So, we have now constructed a datagram packet and we are sending this DP2 to the client side. The similar way the client would be coded. Here you can see here you create a datagram socket, and this is an empty datagram socket you have created, and then we have created a datagram packet called DP1 DP2, and then we try to create an buffered reader. This is to read from the keyboard, and now we have a byte array, we have declared a string. So, here you can see that here the string, if it is equals to exit, we are making it a break. As I told you, it is a chat program between the client and the server. This chat will continue as long as the server or the client is not giving an exit string, is not sending an exit string. So, what we are trying to do is this is actually a test code which is not going to get executed in this program. So, you can come to this loop, within this do while loop. Here you can see, you can understand that use the BR to read a line from the keyboard. Now, it is a string, we have taken a string. So, what you need to do is we need to convert the string to bytes, so that using this byte array we can create a datagram packet. So, we convert it to a byte array B. First we have created a byte array of size 1024, then use the string object S dot the method called get bytes. So, get bytes would actually convert the string to bytes. So, this string object is now getting converted to a byte array. So, get bytes would return a byte array. So, you will get now a byte array. So, once you have a byte array, you can construct your datagram packet. So, you can see here we constructed a datagram packet with the byte array B, comma, and we have specified the length, the length of how much data we are actually sending through this datagram packet. So, either you can use S dot length, or you can use the byte array dot length actually would give you 1024. So, it is better to use S dot length, and then this is actually a datagram packet constructed to send. So, in order to send it, you need to know the INET address. Okay. So, this server is also running in the same local host. So, we will now create an INET address object, use the method called get by name. So, INET address dot get by name, and it is a local machine address. So, the IP address. So, we give the local host, and the port number which we want to communicate is 6000. So, the client is the one is going to first send the datagram packet to the server. So, in order to send this datagram packet, it is now giving the host address, and then it is also giving the port number where the server can get the information. So, now you start sending the datagram packet. So, use the datagram socket object, use the socket to send your datagram packet. So, it is ds dot send off the datagram packet as DP1. So, DP1 is actually sent to the server. So, the server has to what it has to do? It has to receive this datagram packet. We have seen the code of the server in order to receive the datagram packet. So, the server what it has done? It has constructed an empty datagram packet and it is receiving the datagram packet using the receive method. So, receive of DP1 and then datagram socket, DS is a datagram socket object dot receive of DP1, and now it is actually getting the data from it is opening the packet, getting the data. So, use a method called get data and then now you have a byte array. So, how do you print it on your screen? You need to convert this byte to an string. So, once you convert this byte to a string, you can print it on the console. This is what happening. So, client is actually sending, first initiating by sending a datagram packet to the server, server is receiving the datagram packet and putting on the screen. In turn, the client is now constructing another datagram packet by getting the address from the received datagram packet. The received datagram packet is DP1. So, from DP1 it gets the address, from DP1 it gets the port, use the method called get address and get port. So, use these methods and you now construct a datagram packet in the server and server is sending this DP2 datagram packet 2. So, now what happens in the client side? Client has to receive this datagram packet. So, as the server was doing it, the client is also now would construct a datagram, an empty datagram packet. So, DP2 is another datagram packet, empty datagram packet of byte array and the length of the byte array. Now, use the method called the datagram socket dot receive of DP2. Now, DP2 dot get data will get the information in the form of a byte array. So, it is written back to the byte array B. Now, in order to print it on the console, you use the byte array, convert it to a string. So, use the constructor of the string class to convert bytes to string. So, once you get a string, you can use your system dot out dot println to print your the string on the console. So, this do while will run as long as this string S it is not equal to an exit string. So, if on the client side or in the server side, if someone sends and gives a string as exit, then that the connection would get disconnected. So, now actually this is what the output which we get using the chat UDP server and client. So, here the client is first sending an hi to the server, server is receiving it and the server has to again send some information from this side to other side. So, until it gives an exit, this communication will be happening. So, now next we will see about the multicast sockets. So, with UDP, for UDP communication, so far we have seen that there are two classes called datagram socket and datagram packet. Now, along with this datagram socket and datagram packet, there is one more class called multicast socket. This multicast socket is for establishing a multicast communication. So, what do you mean by actually multicasting? Multicasting is like sending data from one host to many hosts. It is to a group of host. So, from the sender would send something that would be received by a group of people, but the group of people all will not receive it. The only those who have expressed their interest to join in that group would actually receive this information. So, it is multicast communication is an one to many communication. Multicast communication is not same as broadcast communication. Broadcast communication is where one would send and everyone would receive. Multicasting is that one would send and a group would receive, and this group is a one which has actually shown some interest to join in that group, and so that they are actually receiving this information. So, this in order to make multicast communication in Java, we use the same datagram packet what we have seen in for UDP socket communication, along with a new class called multicast socket class. So, the two classes which we need for multicast communication is datagram packet and multicast socket. And in order to make this multicast communication, we need to make use of only the multicast addresses. IETF has actually set addresses from 224.0.0.1 to 239.255.255.255. So, this is actually these are the IP addresses we need to use for making multicast communication. So, you use any address within this range from 224 to 239 for making multicasting. Now, In order to do this multicast communication, we basically do 4 key operations, and this multicast socket is similar to a datagram socket. Datagram socket you create on both client and the server side. Similarly, here too the multicast socket would be created in the client side as well as on the server side. You do not have a separate class for the server or the client. So, a multicast socket would be created on both the ends. Both, not like a server or a client, it is a group and a sender. So, many of them would join in a group and a sender would send something and the group would all receive it. So, here you can see that the step 1, we need to join a multicast group. The one who wants to get information has to join a multicast group, and we need to send the data to the member of the group. We can send data to the member of the group. The group members can receive the data and they can all leave the group. So, in order to receive the information, they have to first join the group, send data to the group. One would send data to the group, others will receive data from the group, and everyone will leave the group. So, these are the 4 key operations. So, joining and leaving group, join group and leave group are the one which is actually different from datagram socket. So, this multicast socket class is a subclass of the datagram socket class defined in Java, and it is constructed in the same way as the datagram socket. And we have some more extra methods in the multicast socket which is for multicast, specifically for making multicast communication. One is a join group and the other one is a leave group. In order to receive or send information, you have to join in the group, and once the communication is over, you have received the data, you can leave the group. So, use a method called join group and leave group. So, join group using the inet address object, and leave group again you use the inet address object. So, to the address where it is actually that would bind it, the address, IP address and the port number. And we can also use methods like set time to live, how far your datagrams will travel before routers ignore them, or get time to live. So, these are some other methods that are available in the multicast. So, the multicast sender first create the multicast socket, and then it would join the multicast group. So, the sender is the one which creates a multicast socket and it joins to the group. And now, it is going to send data. So, it has to create the datagram packet, and then it has to send the packet only through the socket. You know that packet has to be sent through the socket, and once it sends the data, it can leave the multicast group. So, sender would first create a multicast socket, it would join the group, create a datagram packet, send the packet, and then it leaves the multicast group. So, now this is the code. We can see what would be done in the multicast sender side. So, as I told you, first you get a inet address object where you will have all these hosts connected. Okay. So, use the get by name and then give the multicast group address and then get an inet address object, and you try to create a multicast socket, and now once it creates a multicast socket, the sender has to join in the group. So, use the method called join group. So, when it is join group, it has to give the multicast group, which is nothing but this is the inet address object which you have already created. So, you join group where everyone is going to receive, so to the group address which is the IP address and the port number, and you can set time to live to be 1 if the data, how long the datagram can wait. So, you make it as 5, and now this is a sender. So, the sender has to construct the datagram packet. So, as I told you earlier, it is a byte array. This is a string, this is a message is a string. So, the string object dot use get bytes, and that would return a byte array, and then you create a datagram packet. Then this datagram packet, you set the address to be the multicast group address, set the port to be this port number 1234, and send the datagram. Once the datagram is sent, you can leave the group. Multicast receiver, in the other end, the receivers are a group of people. They create a multicast socket on an agreed port. They too has to join the multicast group. They have to create an empty gram in order to receive the sent datagram, and once they create an empty datagram, they wait for the datagram to be delivered on the socket. They unpack the datagram, open the packet, use the datagram, and they leave the multicast group. So, this is the code to explain the multicast receiver. So, as such, here they have to communicate in the same IP address and the port number. So, create an inet address object, you create a multicast socket and join group, and here is where you create an empty datagram packet and make use of the method called receive, and then again open the packet, unpack the packet, get the string and then leave the group. So, this is an example code that would actually work. Here you have the whatever I have explained, the INET address is got in the command line, it is args of 0 and the port number is got in the command line args of 1. So, you create a multicast socket. In the multicast group is a program where you create a multicast socket and then you make a statement called join group. It has to join group in the with the group, group is nothing but the INET address, and you have used a set, you have given a port, okay, port number when you create a multicast socket, and then multicast group is the one which is going to receive the datagram. So, you construct an empty datagram packet, use the receive method and then unpack the datagram packet and you are printing on the screen. So, these are the other things. Once it is completed, it has to leave the group. Sender has to create again a group and the port by which you create an INET address object. So, once you create this is the data you want to send it. So, we construct a datagram packet, create a multicast socket, join the group, send the datagram packet and then leave the group. So, now this is the example. Here you can see that this is actually the sender, Java multicast sender is the sender, and args of 0 and args of 1 is where you have given the INET address. So, this is the multicast address 228.5.6.7 and this is the port number, and this is one is going to send data, others has to receive the datagram. So, there are 3 people who are waiting in the group. So, multicast group is the one who is actually want to receive, they should wait in order to receive. So, first you have to execute the multicast group and each of these multicast, these 3 people would be waiting, and once the sender sends the datagram packet, all the 3 would receive it. You can see here, multicast data is received by all the 3 and then it unpacks it and it prints on the screen. And there are also socket options, we can use socket options like all these options works with the socket class. Okay. So, now in this module we have actually explained about UDP socket communication in Java. We have discussed about the classes like datagram socket, datagram packet in order to build UDP communication, and we have also discussed about multicasting with UDP sockets, and we have seen that how we use the class called multicast socket class. Thank you.